I'm Shuko Oda, and this is the Great British Chef's Signature Series. I'm the chef from Koya Restaurant. We specialize in udon noodles. Today we're in our city branch. We opened about 10 years ago, and I'm going to cook Yaki udon today, stir-fried udon noodles with pickled greens, some peppers, and pork belly. You can throw in any kind of seasonal vegetables and it will taste nice. It's like rice. As long as you make your noodles right and your dashi right, what you put together with can be very versatile and very broad. So the first step is to pickle the greens. This pickled green recipe is a really easy pickle, and you can use most green leaves and vegetable tops, Swiss chard, anything along that line will do the job. And it's something I always have in the fridge because it just brings out so much. So to make the pickle, you basically pickle the greens in 4% salt. Put it into a big bowl, marinate it, massage it in salt. But when you're doing this, punch the stem bit so that it gets the pickling and liquid going. You almost like you could give it a little punch to the stems, and you could already see some of the water coming out from the greens. Okay, so that's kind of been massaged now for about 5 minutes. When you're pickling it in a container, what you just have to remember is that it's packed quite tight and it's got enough weight on it. I'm also going to add some dried kombu in between and some chilies. So I'm gonna put 2 chilies. If you can't get dried kombu, you can always do without. It'll still turn out nice. Or you could add something like dried mushrooms and it will still give out nice flavor. So for this kind of amount, it's better maybe if you have a Tupperware like that. And then you push it in. And then you put some kind of weight on. And then leave it in the fridge for about a week. So this pickled green was made about a month and a half ago. So it's got a really nice flavor to it now, and it's ready to be used. I'm gonna chop this up first, but before that, give it a little quick squeeze to get some of the excess water out. I mean, the pickled greens does add quite a lot of saltiness and a lot of flavor, so it's actually how much you want it to your liking, really. We need to marinate the pork belly, so we'll start by slicing the pork belly. Try and make sure you have a good balance of fat in the meat, because the fat basically on this meat gives it all the flavor. So we slice it about 5 millimeters, and because you don't want it to be too thin either. We use pork a lot in our cooking. Apparently, we're one of the biggest pork eaters in the world. But yeah, so the pork belly we put into a bowl and basically put a tablespoon of sake, a little bit of salt, and then you give it a little massage. And you basically leave this marinating for about 30 minutes. Yeah, you can use white wine. I think nothing too floral, but yeah, any dry white wine would do. So we have 3 types of peppers here from Namayasai Farm, the Japanese farm that we work quite closely with. These are all Japanese types. None of them are that spicy. This one, fushimi pepper, is usually quite sweet and crunchy. This is called manganji peppers, almost like the size of my hand. And then shishito peppers is kind of like the Japanese padron pepper, so crispy and sweet when it's cooked as well. I'm gonna chop all of these, plus half an onion, some spring onions, and I'm gonna make needle ginger as well. All of these vegetables, we don't want it to be cut too fine because the greens have quite a strong saltiness, so I want them to keep quite crunchy and quite sharp. So again, not too thin. So I'm gonna cut about 5mm thickness. So I'm gonna soak the spring onion in water just to get that crispy texture back. Also, it helps the onion flavor to be not as strong and sharp as well, so it's a good balance. And then I'm just gonna add the ginger in here. We're gonna peel the ginger with a spoon. Like a lot of vegetables, all the goodiness and the flavor lies just next to the skin, so you don't want to lose it by peeling it thick. It's almost like you're scraping it rather than peeling it. With the needle ginger, you just want to make sure when you're slicing, making the discs, that you go along the grain. When you're slicing this way, you're again going along the grain. The shishito peppers, they're quite a nice size, so I'm just gonna, I think, cut it in half, like so, and leave it at that. You could take off the cap bit, for example, but I always think it's fun when you're eating and then you have to kind of use your hands to, you know, get the top bit out, or it's a bit like eating prawns with shells. It just kind of brings a little bit more action, interaction. I'm gonna put about a tablespoon of vegetable oil. First, fry the pork, but I'm gonna do it quite slow and steady rather than quick fry, because it will help to make sure that the fat firstly is nice and transparent and all of it's melty, and it will help to make sure that it's not too tough as well. So once we turn it, you cook it for a further 3 minutes, basically until it colors nicely. Go in. First we fry the onions and the greens. This process, we just want to cook it until the onions are almost transparent and fully cooked. I'm now going to add the peppers. So these will take about a couple of minutes, but again, you don't want it to cook too much. You want the crunchy crispiness of the pepper to stay in the dish as well. The pork belly now, so it goes back into the pan. And at this stage, we're gonna add the noodles too. And the seasoning actually goes in at this stage as well, which is soy sauce, sake, mirin, and a little bit of roasted sesame oil. So that goes in. So putting the lid on makes the noodles to go a little bit softer, and then now it's ready to soak up all the goodiness in the pan. So I'm now going to add the spring onion and the ginger. At the end, it's more like a quick toss rather than cooking it. So maybe anywhere from 30 seconds to a minute should be plenty. So we plate the noodles. The hidden star of this dish is definitely the pickled greens. It's what makes the dish, and that's the wonderful thing about the pickled greens, that it's not something you can pinpoint, but it's definitely there and it helps with the flavors. What goes in on top is the bonito shapes and pickled ginger. So that's it. That's Yaki udon with pickled greens, peppers, and pork belly.